Hey everyone, just a quick announcement. There's going to be a third season of Spines, but we can't make it happen without your help. If you've enjoyed the first 2 seasons and you'd like to see a third one, please go to patreon.com/Spines Podcast to support us today. We appreciate all your help. Now, please enjoy the season finale of Spines. Miranda's dead. So are most of the Seekers. Shan and Zachary and I played right into their hands, and now we're the only thing standing between the world and the Trumpet. Sorry about that, world. Wish I had better news for you. This is Spines. I appreciate what you did, Zachary. Helping Shan get to me and all that. I think I might have made it out on my own, but they definitely made it easier. So thank you. Still, it was what the Splinter wanted, so you shouldn't have done it. I guess it's not really important what happened in the Dead City, but telling you will let me put off talking about what happened in the Burrow, so I guess I'll share it. You already know how I went through the gate. Shan told you about all that watery gate I could pass through, but they couldn't. I stepped through the water, and it clung like spider webs to my skin. I got through, and there was this destroyed version of the city I used to know so well. The one you used to know so well, too. Not everything was dead. There was movement. Moving, lifelike things. Although calling them life might be stretching the definition a bit. But this was a city that was killed by dreams coming to life. Those dreams didn't go anywhere. They just made themselves a home, occupying the spaces humans once did. The first thing I saw was a woman whose body faded into mist right around the navel. She moved slowly above the blacktop of the crumbling highway ramp, watching me out of the corner of her eye. Above her, a palm tree floated upside down, its palm fronds hanging limply toward the ground. There were other things, too. Things I don't have time to describe right now. Before I had a chance to go any farther, I heard a sound behind me. A kind of popping sound. I turned and there was Shan. But I mean, you know all about that, Zachary, since you sent them. Shan just stood there and blinked at me as though they were the one who was surprised. "You're still here?" they asked. "How long have you been trying to get back through?" "What are you talking about?" I said. "I only came through a minute ago." And then Shan told me that was wrong, that I'd been here for hours already. And then their eyes widened, and we realized that time was flying by outside this city. We both realized Iris wasn't coming. She wasn't coming, and the Burrow was undefended. And every moment we wasted here was precious minutes and hours and eventually days back outside. We started searching for a way out right away. But that gate that had been soft as water was now hard as concrete, even for me. Shan got to work reading the history of the place, trying to figure out how the gate was made. I slowed time for stretches as long as I could, trying to get it to match up to the time as it flowed outside. But we could both feel it slipping away. We watched the sun outside our bubble careen toward the horizon, and then darkness fell way faster than it should have. All the while, itinerant dreams rambled and swirled around us. Just up the highway, A little girl played in a puddle of bright blue mud. A creature that looked like some kind of mix between a giraffe and a bird stalked and clawed at the side of a mini-mart off the first exit of the highway. A whole feast of cakes and wine lay on the surface of a table floating a few feet off the floor. A few yards away from the gate, Shan found a piece of cinder block and ran their fingers over it. "I got something," they said. Their eyes went distant and the color changed a little. "Iris was here," they said. "Iris and a few others. They brought someone here, not the harvester. Another prisoner, someone in chains, and they made the gate. And then once they made the gate, Iris took them that way." They pointed down the long, looping stretch of cracked blacktop that used to be the highway. "So we set off in that direction because we didn't have any other ideas. Things followed us the whole time. Dreamed things, I assume, but maybe not. Maybe there are people living here still. Maybe some of the freaks my tiles left in their wake. Maybe some of Sage's cyborgs are still hunkered down in their theater. Maybe some of Natalie's children hunt in the rubble. I know some of them got out of that city, but not all. Whether the things around us started off as human or not, though, I can't imagine they stayed that way very long, breathing and eating dreams. Shan started trembling after a while, although they tried to hide it. "A lot of people died here," they said at last. "I can smell it." They pretended they were okay, but I could tell they weren't. I finally convinced them to let me use a little persuasion on them. I told them to ignore the smell of death, to not be able to smell it until we left the city. They did better after that. We reached a place where the highway curved and conjoined with two others. Back in the day, this is the spot where you would go to choose between north and south, east and west, to find cities bigger than this one. Now it was just empty. Except not quite empty. Between the burnt-out cars and bits of trash and rotting pieces I avoided looking at too closely, there was something else. A shape that emerged at the center of the highway, right at the junction. It might have been a discarded duffel bag at first. Then I started to see the features, the human shape of it. I don't know what this person would have looked like before. Male, female, neither. Old, young, somewhere in the middle. Whatever they had been before, they were now a creature of brick and cement, a living piece of city. They sat in a lotus position, watching me with eyes of shattered windshield glass. Their skin had the marbled texture of old pavement. Shredded newspaper and fast food wrappers jutted from their head where their hair might have been before. They cried tears of antifreeze and motor oil. They spoke and had glinting bits of soda can for teeth. "Please," it said. "I've done everything she asked." "We're not with Iris," I told them. "She tricked us. She trapped us here." thing rasped. "The Wren. You're the reason I'm here. She made me trap you." The way they said it wasn't like they blamed me. More like they were sorry. "Is there a way to get out of here?" I asked. "A way to get you out?" They said nothing for a moment. Then, "Not as long as I'm alive. They made me this city. They made me put up those walls." It cried silently for a while. I never wanted to. It's just, now those walls are like my immune system. I can't control it. I can't turn them off. I didn't really understand what this person's gift had looked like before. I don't think Shan did either. But we both knew what it meant, that this person was growing into the concrete and detritus of the city. We both knew there wasn't going to be a way to dig them out of the ground. But that didn't mean we didn't have options. Shan waited a while. I think they didn't really want to say it. Then, "We can't get you out of here, but what if you were something else?" The thing on the highway blinked. "Like what?" "A park? A patch of trees and flowers? Something green?" The thing said, "If I changed that much, it would break my hold on the city. You could go, but I wouldn't really be me anymore, would I?" I didn't say anything. Neither did Shan. We just waited. Finally, the thing took a deep breath and said, "I suppose I'm not me anymore anyway. And I'd rather be anything but this. Do what you have to do." Shan pressed their palms together and concentrated. While they worked, I touched the creature and pulled out the things that would hurt plants, like the way I can pull water out of bodies. I pulled out the chemicals and oil and plastic and petroleum, everything that didn't belong in a living thing. The thing hissed and shivered as I worked, as motor oil and liquid plastic flowed out like sweat. Shan pulled their palms apart, and there in their hands lay a pile of little black seeds. They tipped the seeds over the thing's head in a cascade. Where those seeds should have just bounced off the pavement and onto the road, they latched onto the asphalt skin. Little white roots, like hairs, folded out of the seeds and into the thing's body. The creature made a sound like it was trying not to cry. "My name was Elizabeth," the thing said. "Will you remember?" And I said yes, and now I'm telling the world so that all of you can remember too. It only took a minute. The seeds took root in Elizabeth's skin just as easily as if it were mulch. Her body started to disintegrate as plants grew out of it. Her features blurred and collapsed. And then the entire body was a grassy mound with saplings growing out of it. At the same time, I felt a pop as time started working the way it's supposed to. I knew, even without looking, that the gate was gone. By the time we turned back and started the walk along the highway out of the city, the green had spread from where Elizabeth had sat and now covered a 30-foot stretch of the highway. I'm sure it's still growing. Maybe it'll never stop. Maybe now there's an oasis in the middle of that desert. We tried calling the borough as soon as we got out of the city, as soon as we started the drive back. No one answered. Not Miranda, not Winry. We drove as fast as my car could go, not stopping for anything, using our gifts to ditch the cops when necessary. All the while, we kept trying to get in touch. Shan tried to use their remote viewing, but couldn't do much in the metal shell of my car. We saw what happened as soon as we got back to the borough. The front door was wide open, and a bunch of computer cables and other equipment had been dragged onto the porch. Then I stepped inside, and I saw the first body. It was a guy named Greg, I think. I know I met him back when I first came here. I know I shook his hand. I know we passed each other in the halls. And he would smile at me. I feel so bad I can't remember his name. Greg, if that was his name, lay face down on the tiles. His head had been cracked open, and there was no brain inside. The rest were scattered throughout the borough. Some lay behind splintered, buckled-in doors, near makeshift barricades. Others seemed to have been caught by surprise. In the middle of the living room, curled by the toilet, stuffed halfway into a linen closet. Some, the ones higher up, the ones closer to Miranda's level, had their heads opened. The ones who seemed more on the fringes were just dead. Miranda was in her office. A gun lay on the floor near her hand, but I don't think she ever got a chance to use it. Her head was split open, her skull emptied. Shan braced himself and touched Miranda's face. "I see her," they said at last. "Iris." She didn't even flinch when the harvester took Miranda. She watched the entire thing like it was nothing. They frowned and ran their hands over the hardwood floor, now smeared with Miranda's blood. But then, after, Iris took something. $4 from the shelf, and then... I followed Shan down the hallway as they trailed their fingers over nearby surfaces, reconstructing Iris's journey through the slaughterhouse her harvester had created. We wound up in the basement, in Winry's lair. There was an empty space along one of the walls, just a tangle of cords and adapters where a squat gray tower had been. The server. The Seeker's main server, where they kept their database of every gifted person they had ever encountered or documented. If you're gifted, if you ever came to the attention of the Seekers, the Splinter knows where you are. Things you should know about the Seekers. There's no point in keeping the meaning of the Trumpet secret. Not anymore. So here it is. The Trumpet is the biological offspring of 2 mosaics. The Trumpet will have a unique collection of gifts, based on the unique combination of 2 mosaics gifts. That collection adds up to one special purpose. The Trumpet will have the ability to awaken the latent gifts and powers hiding in the DNA of ungifted people. All normal people. All those recessive genes, all those dormant abilities, each and every one of you is carrying something that can be activated by the Trumpet. The Trumpet will have the ability to awaken them all. The man in the grove saw the path to making the Trumpet. He saw that the Trumpet would never happen by chance, never through random reproduction. and the trumpet couldn't be constructed or conjured out of thin air. It was too complex for that. No, the trumpet could only be made in one way. The trumpet could only exist as the offspring of two mosaics. Both Seekers and Splinter wanted to make the trumpet. They agreed on that. But there's one huge, important difference between the trumpet each of them would make. The one the Seekers would have made would have been carefully limited, able to activate only one person's abilities at a time. They would have been able to control that through their slow engineering, the selective breeding of their mosaics. The activation of the human race's powers would have been gradual and controlled, and we'd be able to prepare for the changes to come. But that's not the trumpet the Splinter is making. The Splinter's trumpet is something wilder, something left far more to chance. The Splinter's trumpet won't have any of those careful, built-in limitations. The Splinter's trumpet, the way they've envisioned it, will awaken everyone's powers at the same time. Every single gift hiding in the human race's genes. All the things that me and Zachary and Shan can do. All those things will be inflicted on the human race at the same moment. The Splinter calls that moment the awakening. Miranda called it the apocalypse. So now here we are. The Splinter has everything it needs to make its mosaics. No more stumbling around in the dark. No more failures to clean up. The next time they try this ritual, it's gonna work. I can feel it in my bones. And Shan sees it happening. I can tell from the look in their eyes. So now, standing between all of you listening and the Splinter, there's just me and Shan. Or, not quite. Not quite just us. Winry survived. We found her huddled behind a file cabinet in the corner, curled into a tight little ball so small I almost didn't see her. Her eyes were screwed shut, and she'd bitten her lip so hard it broke the skin. Her bundle of dreadlocks was soaked with so much blood I thought she had a head wound, but as it turns out, the blood wasn't hers. I'm not sure whose it was, but it doesn't really matter. They're not here anymore. Iris must have been so focused on getting the server that she didn't make sure she'd killed everyone in the burrow. She came close, though. Winry was the only one we found alive. She started screaming the second we pulled her out from behind the filing cabinet, but Shan made some kind of dust with their palms and brushed it over her face, and she went into a kind of stupor. Then Shan lifted her in their slim, strong arms and carried her out of the burrow. She's still out, tucked into one of the beds in the shitty motel we're squatting in right now. We went back to the place Shan and I have been staying just long enough to grab Akira and some clothes. It won't be safe to go back there again. I hope Winry stays asleep for a while. As soon as she wakes up, we're gonna need her to get working on finding Iris. She's the only seeker we've got left. And there's one more aside from me and Winry and Shan. Because just after we got to our new hotel, I got an email. It's from Zachary. He says he was wrong. He says things have gone too far. He says he wants to meet, to join us. Shan was quiet for a while after I showed them that message. It could be a trap, they said, but they didn't sound convinced. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Shan knows as well as I do that for all his bad choices, for all his faults, Zachary would never hurt me. I took Shan's face into my hands and kissed them. I choose you, I said. And I watched the relief come into Shan's face because they knew I meant it. I'm telling you this so you know it too, Zachary. Come to us if you still want to help us fight the good fight. But not for anything else. Not for me. You and I, Zachary, we might have been made for each other. We might be destined for each other. But I say fuck destiny. I want to choose, and I have. Shan left a note with our address, where they knew you'd find it. It should be catching your eye as you hear these words. You should be moving toward it. You should be bending down to pick it up right now. Spines is a production of Zoom Doom Stories. It's narrated by Ren Jones, written by Jamie Killen, website and logos by Benjamin Pond, produced by Jamie Killen and Benjamin Pond. You can support Spines by visiting patreon.com/Spines Podcast and by subscribing and leaving a review on iTunes. Spines is a member of Fake Crafters Studios. Find more great shows at fakecrafters.net. This week we recommend Lake Clarity. Lake Clarity is an audio drama about 5 teens who head up to Camp Clarity to celebrate their last summer together. But little do they know they're about to stumble on a dark secret surrounding the lake. Visit lakeclarity.libsyn.com today to find out more.